now going live on YouTube.
Also, my computer is going really, really slow, so it's going to be a second before those links are dropped, but they will be dropped. Just don't wait to think I forgot. Sorry, guys.
All right. Thanks so much. Ron, did you want to do the welcome?
Yeah, hi, welcome everybody. Thanks for being here. We have a tidy agenda. We have 2 items that we're going to be discussing today. We're going to be talking, approving agreements for Lane County and for Klamath County, and that is the extent of our agenda today. And once we confirm that we're at quorum, we can move ahead.
All right, so I'm moving on to the opening remarks from OHA. Good afternoon. I am Jessica Carroll, the interim program manager for Measure 110, and I will be assisting Ron with the facilitation for today's meeting. The Oversight and Accountability Council welcomes and encourages community input. Members of the public are invited to submit public comments or get on our interested parties email list by emailing oha.measure110@dhsoha.state.or.us. That email address and more information about the council can be found on the Measure 110 OAC website. Link is in the chat. For more information or support with community engagement, please contact Sydney McConnell. She's going to drop her email in the chat. OAC members have asked that OHA and other staff who are present in the meeting space introduce themselves in the chat. Please share your role with the agency, and if you are a subject matter expert, your area of expertise. And I think we are okay to call roll. Are we good with that, Ron?
Yes.
All right, so Sydney, when you're ready.
Sorry about that, everybody. Hello. If you could just say here when I say your name, we greatly appreciate it. Amy.
Here.
Thanks, Amy. Blue.
Here.
Blue. Carlos.
Here.
Hi, Carlos. Caroline.
Here.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Caroline. Dharma.
Here.
Thanks, Dharma. Henry.
Here.
Hi, Henry. Hubert. No Hubert yet. Karen. No Karen. Keisha.
Here.
Thanks, Keisha. Lana. No Lana. Leticia. Leticia. Melinda.
Here.
Thank you. Morgan.
Was Morgan here before?
Nicole. Onisha.
Here.
Hi, Onisha. Ron.
Ron's here.
Hi, Ron. Sabrina.
Sabrina's reconnecting. Yeah, it looks like I miscounted. I'm not seeing. I thought
Zeb?
Nicole was in, but she's not.
I'm here.
Hi, Zeb. Just gonna go back through real quick, see if anyone else joined. Hubert. Karen.
You're still at 14.
Lana. Leticia. Morgan. Nicole. Sabrina is. Sabrina, are you there?
Karen says she's in the waiting room.
Yep, we're letting her in. So can we just let everybody in the waiting room in, even if their cell phone numbers? Hi, Hubert. Thanks for showing up. Appreciate
late. I be at work sometimes, so
No, we really appreciate it. Absolutely.
All right.
All right, Hubert, if you could just stay here, I'll mark you down for the record.
Here.
Thanks, Hubert.
All right.
Karen,
Hello, I'm here.
hi, Karen.
Thanks for letting me in.
Yeah, Lana, Leticia, Morgan, Nicole, and Sabrina. We're only at 14. Okay, I see Sabrina's here, so that puts us at 15. Sabrina marked in the chat. Okay, we're at 15.
Okay, thank you. Okay, great.
Steve is also here. Sorry, Steve. Thank you.
So with that, we can move ahead with approval of the grant agreements from Lane County. So if OHA would like it, Steve, would you like to take it?
Absolutely. Thanks, Ron. As we're bringing up the slides, just a couple of quick things. Before today, we were down to 5 remaining county regions, where we will be presenting 2 today. Assuming that those may pass, that will leave 3 left, and we think that we will be ready to present all 3 next week. Multnomah, which I know many of you are interested in, we were so close to being able to present today, but actually had some additional unallocated money that showed up in the budget at the last minute. So we're working with providers to make use of those funds, probably with a focus on housing. So that's coming up. Also, just a heads up, we may want to speak more about it, but we're anticipating that a number of council members, because of where you live or where you work, will have conflicts of interest, perceived or actual, with Multnomah. So we'll just want to make sure that we have enough council members represented so that we can reach quorum and have sufficient votes to ensure that we bring in just such a large county region that we just want to make sure that we can be able to have a valid vote with that. Also, just go ahead, Jesse.
I was just going to call for conflicts, but go ahead. So sorry.
Yeah, and the other thing, just to acknowledge publicly, I think all of you know that Angela requested some time away to address some health issues that had been going on, and so Jessica has taken over as the interim manager for Measure 110. I think all of us are familiar with Jessica, and she's been an able leader, formally and informally, through all of this. So we welcome Jessica in your new role, and feel like we have every confidence that we can continue this work moving forward as we have. All right, go ahead, Jessica.
All right.
All the questions.
Yeah, so you all are going to be considering Lane County. If you have a conflict of interest with Lane County, can you please declare it now? Hearing none. Steve?
Thank you. All right, Lane County region. Next slide, please. So as you can see, you authorized quite a number of approved applicants, and all areas were covered pretty robustly, including supported employment, which is sometimes a missing service. What you'll notice, the last provider here, Willamette Family Inc., did choose to step away. As we look at the budgeting and got into those negotiations, Willamette did not believe that with the depths of cuts that would be needed, that they would be able to provide the kind of services that they thought would be required. And so that was a shame that particular provider stepped away, but it did help address some of the budget challenges in Lane County. Next slide, please. You can see that we've broken it down in a couple ways, so I'll just walk through this. If you look at the bold number, the $43+ million, that was what was initially requested by all of the original providers. The 28 million or almost 29 million is what was allocated per the formula. So as we went into these negotiations, there was $14 million, almost $15 million over allocation. So that represented a significant challenge. What you'll also see up above is through the negotiations, Lane County decided to establish 3 separate burns. And you'll see those original budget breakdowns based on the providers who were interested in participating in each of those 3 burns. So we've labeled them burn number 1, which roughly 6 million. Burn number 2, also they preformed as they submitted their original request, also called Once, and then Latino, Latinx, Latina, separate group with about 5 million allocation. And you'll see that we've broken down the budgets in accordance to those 3 burns. Next slide. So these were the concerns and your feedback. So the first relates to ideal options, and your questions were around ensuring ideal options, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and those principles are addressed, and they made an opening statement that they're committed to that equity work, and they also committed to building out a diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI framework focused on recruiting diverse applicants and integrating DEI into the fabric of ideal options culture. So they're recommitting themselves to that work. OSLC Development, Inc., how would they ensure the comprehensive services that they're offering fall under the approved services? For them, harm reductions costs were not approved, and so they removed naloxone and other harm reduction supplies as part of their budget. And you'll see that reflected in the budget changes. Next slide. HIV Alliance. Your question was whether their funding included rental assistance, hotel vouchers, as well as housing advocates. Yes, they confirmed the funds requested will provide housing assistance, motel vouchers for the clients receiving the burn services. Housing our veterans, how will they ensure that recovery services are in alignment with Measure 110 values and guidelines? And then how is the organization recruiting and engaging clients, and is the housing offered low barrier? The response was they used low barrier housing first approach. They work with many community veteran service providers in the community as well as others. When determining whether a client is appropriate for services, they ask, is this person a veteran? Can this person participate in the community without being disruptive to others, road to recovery, or is a threat to themselves or others? If not, they work with partners to find a safe form handoff for the individual to other services. Next slide. Laura Hill Center, are they providing rental assistance for unhoused people as well as folks already housed? And they confirm, yes, they do. Provide housing services for those who are unhoused, including placements, assistance, barrier removal, establishing residency, and services remain to housed. Looking Glass offered a shelter and sobering center. Is it low barrier? Yes, they confirmed it's low barrier for youth. This particular, we've talked about sobering centers and shelters in other settings. This is specific to youth. Sobering center is designed for youth actively under the influence of substances that would not be allowed in another location, typically chronically homeless, and often end up in adult camps where they're routinely preyed upon. According to Looking Glass, Looking Glass prioritizes safety in the youth that they serve. They confirmed that they provide 24/7, 366 adult supervision. So these youth, while they're engaged in these services, will have adult supports throughout, along with 24-hour nursing staff. They will meet or exceed all licensing and national accreditation standards for these services and have consulted with DHS licensing specific to a youth sobering center operations. Next slide. Shelter care, are they providing culturally relevant services with diverse staff? Clarify if beds requested are for individuals with substance use disorders. Yes, all of Shelter Care's programs are person-centered so that staff experiences are unique to the individual's needs, culture, gender, trauma, et cetera. Staff are diverse to assist in providing culturally relevant services. And then they break down the current staffing that they have, about 26% identify as a person of color, 3% as non-binary. Shelter Care's 88 staff, 5% self-identify as Black, 7% self-identify as Asian American, Pacific Islander, 6% self-identify as no other indicated. 8% of staff self-identify as Latinx. About 23% of the staff self-identify as non-binary, with 40% have lived experience. And funding is directed for burn clients with substance use challenges. Next slide. So this is the reconciliation process. So we entered this negotiations knowing that some partners wanted to create separate burns. There wouldn't be a single burn in this county region. And so we did a survey asking what partners wanted, and there was a strong preference to form at least 2 or 3 burns. And as you saw, we ended up with 3 in this county region. The next paragraph just confirms that Willamette Family's decision was to vacate the burn after discussion about the depth of the budget challenges that were there. And so when we recalculated the budgets and worked through those, then we did that following Willamette's decision to remove themselves. Next slide. Here's the reconciliation. If you recall, there's 3 separate burns. And so we'll go through each burn's reconciliation. So Daisy Chain reduced their training budget. Deal Option took out the proposed partnership with Safeway to offer co-located SUD services. OSLC Development sequenced hiring to account for funding delays, reduced their Narcan budget, South Lane Mental Health, cut funds for indigent care, but confirmed that they will continue to serve everyone regardless of ability to pay, and will seek alternative funding sources for people who don't have a means to pay for those services. Next slide. So again, this is burn number 1 with you see the Daisy Chain reduction, Ideal Option reduction, et cetera. And so they this particular burn cut $453,000 from their budgets. Next slide. Here's burn number 2, the once burn. The Center for Family Development removed harm reduction cost as per your feedback and direction. Looking Glass removed harm reduction costs and scaled back staffing. Whiteberg removed the clinician costs, reduced budget for some client services. Next slide. You can see those changes here. Looking Glass having the largest cut. Slide. Additional partners here. You can see the big one is that Willamette Family Inc. About $12 million. So the overall cuts for this second burn was about $15 million. Next slide. Centro Latino Americano reduced harm reduction costs per your feedback, also removed peer and a receptionist staff position, and reduced training costs, services and supplies. Next slide. And you can see those cuts reflected there for a total of $671,000 in cuts and some change. Next slide. And so once all of those budgets were restructured, that brought the Lane County, all 3 burns, if you add those up, to just in the total allocation of almost $29 million. Next slide. And here are the final burns, and what you'll notice is that all the boxes are checked. So each of the burns is a complete burn with all required services. So here's burn number 1. Next slide. For number 2, the largest of the 3, again, has all services and robust, so there's lots of choice and options for people within this burn. Next slide. And here's the final, also including all required elements. I think that's it. Yep. So happy to take questions.
Thank you, Steve. Does anyone have any questions for Steve? Caroline?
Thank you, Steve. That was a fantastic overview. Lane County was one of the original grants that I read. It also gave me the biggest grief because of the fact that of the amount that they had requested, and every section of the proposals, the numerous proposals within Lane County, in my opinion, were done very, very well. I was very impressed with Lane County in terms of the variety of services that they offered throughout the county. They seem to be very, very progressive, but the biggest issue is the fact that there was not going to be enough money to fund all of their good work. So I think you've done an excellent job in doing that overview, because I believe Lane County definitely has done an excellent job, in my opinion. So thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Carolyn. The team really did a nice job, and the folks from Lane County had a lot of work to do to form their burns, but also to get within budget. And so just really commend them on doing that difficult work together. It was a tough one.
Absolutely. Blue, do you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted some clarification. I heard about a lot of harm reduction costs being cut, and is that because these organizations were not harm reduction providers, or is this an issue about paraphernalia laws? I was surprised to hear that even a Narcan budget was reduced.
Yeah, Blue, my understanding, and I don't know if Kristen, who took the lead on these negotiations, is on the call, but my understanding is that those were cut in areas where we got guidance from the subcommittee to cut. And I think it's the issue of, you know, are they a harm reduction? Are they structured to do that harm reduction? And in some organizations, the subcommittee deemed that they weren't, and so they requested those cuts. That was my understanding. I don't know, Jessica or if Kristen's on the line to confirm.
So Kristen is not here, but I'm pulling that up now. But that is in line with my recollection, Steve.
I know we have allowed Narcan in the budgets of a lot of organizations that are not harm reduction providers. So that's, I'm still a little confused on that piece of it, but Jessica, I appreciate you looking up the notes from those votes.
Thank you. Does anyone have any more questions for Steve regarding the presentation on Lane County? And hearing none, I think we can move on to motions.
This is Caroline. I'll make a motion to approve Lane County.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion from Caroline and a second from Amy. Any further discussion regarding approving the grant agreements for Lane County? Hearing none, the question was there, did I hear someone?
That it was just Jessica, and I just wanted to confirm with Blue that that is the case, that it was for organizations that were not funded for harm reduction.
Thank you, Jessica. So we have a motion, we have a second, and the discussion has ended. And I think we can call the question to fund the burn an agreement for funding the burns in Lane County. I hope that was clear.
Okay, motion to fund Lane County. Amy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thanks, Amy. Blue?
Abstain.
Thanks, Blue. Carlos?
Yes.
Thanks, Carlos. Caroline?
Yes.
Thanks, Caroline. Dharma?
Yes.
Thanks, Dharma. Henry?
Yes.
Thanks, Henry. Hubert?
Yes.
Thanks, Hubert. Karen?
Yes.
Thanks, Karen. Keisha? Keisha, are you there?
Say yes. Can you hear me?
Can hear you now. Thank you. Let's see. Did Leticia join? Don't see Leticia. Okay. Morgan is not here anymore. Onisha.
Yes.
Thanks, Onisha. Ron?
Yes.
Thanks, Ron. Sabrina?
Yes.
Thanks, Sabrina. Zeb?
Yes.
Thanks, Zeb. And I'm sorry, Melinda
Yes.
skipped you. Thank you.
And Morgan is
And
here.
I saw Morgan just popped up. Morgan, how do you vote?
Is my vote needed?
We are
To
at
make-
13, so
So yes.
not really.
Can you? Oh, well then no. Then I would abstain, please.
Okay, abstain. Gotcha. All right, and just making sure Nicole is not present. I didn't see her when I scrolled, but I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so that passes with 11 yes, 2 abstain.
Thank you very much, everyone. And moving on, the next item of business is to approve the grant agreements for the Burns and Klamath County. So Steve Mountain, take it away.
Thanks, Ron. Thank you, Sydney. All right, next slide, please. So this is the Klamath County region.
Oh, sorry,
You
we have
can
to,
see-
sorry, Steve.
I'm sorry.
It's okay,
My
we'll
bad.
get it. We'll get it.
That's my fault. I should call on you to do the ask for conflicts, right? Or are you going to do it automatically?
Well, either way, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
We
All
got this. All right.
All right.
The next county that you all will be considering is Klamath County. If you have a conflict of interest in Klamath County, please declare it now. Sabrina? I see her.
Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, so I have a potential conflict of interest with, sorry, I got to think about it. It's been a minute. With Klamath County.
Okay.
And a real conflict of interest with an organization called Transformations. And I hope I said that correctly.
That's fine, Sabrina. So we're just going to ask that you mute yourself and turn your camera off, and we will let you know when we're done. Hearing no others. All right, Steve.
Thanks, Jessica. Next slide. All right, so you can see these are the providers who were approved in Klamath County. What you may notice is supportive employment. We do not have a box checked. Red is the road to wellness. Did agree, as you'll see later, to provide that missing element. Next slide, please. Klamath was also a county region that was significantly over budget, so that was a key challenge there that we worked through with them, so over $3 million over. Next slide. Here were the concerns that you brought forward. So Red is the Road was not funded for harm reduction, and then the question, how will housing be open to trans non-binary individuals? Is abstinence required for emergency beds? So their response, Red is the Road to Wellness, does not currently house transgender or non-binary individuals, but they confirm that they're interested in developing gender-affirming housing and will seek more education and guidance to do that. Red is the Road requires abstinence to stay in their housing program, but works with individuals who have relapsed to increase services to support stabilization. The stronghold questions, only funding peer supports. That was the direction from the subcommittee. Are individual rooms available, or is housing only communal? And they confirmed that they removed the elements that they weren't funded for, including STD treatment, harm reduction. For men, the housing is communal. The women's housing has individual rooms. Individuals in housings may be on prescribed MAT, but must otherwise not use drugs in accordance with their current policies and practices. Next slide, please. Klamath Basin, behavioral health questions. Are services provided to those with substance use or only with mental health issues? Another question would like more specifics on Sobering Center. What is it and how does it work? KBBH confirmed that it provides services to both people with both mental health and SUD issues, but confirmed they will only use Measure 110 funds to support services that are substance use related. And then provided information on the Sobering Center. Their Sobering Center accepts individuals who can self-admit, those who may be brought to the center by law enforcement, individuals who are in the care of Sky Lakes Medical Center for alcohol intoxication, and it's a safe, describing as a safe and supervised environment to voluntarily reach sobriety. The discharge planning available gives people who are in the Sobering Center the opportunity to engage in treatment. Is not required. Sobering Center is open 24/7. Lutheran Community Services of funding substance use treatment only, and no behavioral health positions was as directed by the subcommittee. And they confirmed that they removed the peer support harm reduction components from their budgets, also removed behavioral health positions in accordance with direction from the subcommittee. Next slide, please. Transformations. Concerns included excluding mental health staff. That was not supported by the subcommittee. Would like more information on culturally diverse outreach by Transformations. The question was, does Transformations have gender affirming accommodations and policies in place? The Transformations confirmed that they removed the mental health staff from their budget. Transformations peer staff perform community outreach at least once per month in communities of color. They pass out harm reduction supplies, water, snacks, hygiene supplies, and educational materials. Transformation reported they also partner with local culturally specific agencies to perform large community outreach events, including tribal partners. They say they do not currently have gender affirming, sorry about the spelling there, accommodations in place, but will use Measure 110 funds to expand services so they can do so. Transformations does not refuse services to those who seek care, who have worked with transgender or non-binary individuals to find accommodations and solutions that work for the individual client. Individuals in housing may be on prescribed MAT, but must otherwise not use drugs in accordance to their policies. Next slide. And here's the budget reconciliation section. Max's mission actually increased their budget request. The others reduced. As you'll see in the budget, as the only approved harm reduction provider in the burn, additional funds will be used to purchase naloxone and harm reduction supplies. Whereas the road added supportive employment while scaling back other pieces, including staffing. There's a capital outlay cost, training. They also cut harm reduction provision per OAC feedback. The Stronghold removed SUD treatment, harm reduction provisions in accordance with subcommittee feedback. Klamath Basin reduced budgets in areas of peer support, outreach, peer support and community-based training, staffing, and administrative support. Lutheran Community Services removed peer support, harm reduction services per subcommittee feedback, also removed the behavioral health positions. Transformations removed mental health services per subcommittee feedback, also reduced personnel costs, staff training, services, supplies costs, and a capital project that they had proposed. Next slide. So you see the results of all these cuts with Max's mission, adding the $140,000 for additional harm reduction services and supplies. All of the other organizations cut, with the largest cuts coming from Klamath Basin, Red is the Road, and especially Transformations cutting a large capital project, I think was related to housing. So we didn't quite get to 0.49 left over after all those cuts. And I think that's the last slide. Oop, I'm sorry, the last slide confirms this is a single burn and supportive employment is now covered by Red is the Road. I think that's the last slide. Yeah, thank you. Open for questions.
Thank you, Steve. Does anyone have any questions for Steve regarding Klamath County? Blue?
Yeah, I noticed that we are missing low barrier housing for people who are not abstinent other than Matt. And I believe that was a concern of the subcommittee as well. Unless, are we just counting the sobering center as housing for people that are currently using? Can I get some clarification on that?
Yeah, I think you're spot on, Blue. We have the same concerns, is that none of the housing providers are providing low barrier, all require a level of abstinence to do that. And we do not consider the sobering center housing. It's generally, 24 to 48 hours while people are in sobering. So that is a missing element in this proposal. Working with providers, this is where we got to with their current policies and proposals.
Thanks. Is there
We
any?
would be, happy to take it back on the council's behalf if they reject this and spend more time to build out those low barrier housing services.
Thank you. I just had a follow-up, which is as far as trans inclusive housing, it sounded like transformations wanted to expand to house trans folks, but was there any more information on how they're going to do that?
I don't have that information, Blue, and I wasn't directly involved in this negotiation, but we can find additional information. I don't know if you have that, Jessica. I think Kristen would, but I don't think she was able to join today.
Yeah, no.
Can I see the grid again on the, because I didn't really catch the number of housing providers. There was more than one, correct?
Yeah, 3. We could bring yeah, thank you. Yep, so red is the road, the stronghold, and transformations, and there's a slide that sort of details their offerings for each. You want to go back?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is red in the road, and stronghold are 2 of the providers, and then transformations has its own slide.
This is Karen. Steve, can you remind me who's going to provide the sobering services?
Yeah,
I'm on the
KBH.
phone.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Final station. Yep.
Thank you, Steve. Does anyone have any additional questions? Okay, at this point, if no questions, we can move on to entertaining a motion.
I'll make a motion. This is Caroline.
All right, Caroline.
Approve Klamath County.
Okay, we have a motion to approve Klamath County.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion from Caroline and a second from Henry. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we can call the question to approve burn funding for Klamath County. Sydney.
Right, motion to approve Klamath County. Amy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Amy. Blue?
Abstain.
Thank you, Blue. Carlos?
Yes.
Thanks, Carlos. Caroline?
Yes.
Thanks, Caroline. Dharma?
Abstain.
Thanks, Dharma. Henry?
Yes.
Thanks, Henry. Hubert?
Yes.
Thanks, Hubert. Karen?
Yes.
Thanks, Karen. Keisha?
Yes.
Thanks, Keisha. Melinda?
Yes.
Thanks, Melinda. And Morgan still here?
Flight's delayed. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Morgan. Sorry about that. Nicole is still not here. Okay. Let's see. Onisha. Onisha, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
What's your vote?
Yes.
Thank
I never
you.
heard you call my name.
Oh, sorry. I got your vote. Thanks, Onisha. Ron?
Yes.
Thank you, Ron. Sabrina? Oh, Sabrina has a conflict. Sorry about that. And Zeb?
Yes.
Thank you, Zeb. And that passes with 10 yes and 2 abstentions.
Well, thank you, everyone. Did some very good business today. That actually concludes our agenda for today. We had 2 counties to present next week. We hope that there are 3 counties remaining. We have Multnomah, Lincoln, and Jackson County remaining. And we hope to get through those next week. And if we do that, we are done. So let's continue to press forward. Yes, Amy.
I know we're gonna go early today and stuff, but I have something that may be more suitable, I guess, for me to ask to bring to the table, because I don't know how it is over there in the bigger cities and the larger areas, but I know out here in our rural areas, our police force is just really not on board to give these violations out. Like, I don't know what we can do as a council, or I just don't know what to do. So I kind of wanted to bring that to our attention, and maybe we could discuss that in a next meeting or something.
Have a separate
without
agenda
that-
item. Have a specific agenda item to discuss that fully in terms of what are the parameters under which the council could engage that issue.
Yeah, because we're gonna need to track that stuff, so yeah, I just wanna, somebody could call me or something and we could figure that out and get that on the agenda.
I will call
Right, that
you.
would be great. One of the things to keep in mind is that as the services get stood up all over the state and every county and most of the regions, the folks are able to go directly and receive services whether they get a citation or not. And that's the thing to really be focused on. Just like the data that showed when we got the access to care grants out, that regardless of whether or not you got a citation, more than 16,000 people got services with that first round of access to care grants. And so that's where our focus is ensuring that people all over the state are able to access the services that we're funding.
Okay.
Okay.
Whether or not they give them out. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's good. I just,
okay.
Like I said, I just was a little concerned about that because they're like, I don't know. Anyway, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Blue.
I just wanted some clarification. I know we are going to have some policies that we want all these organizations to sign, and I think among them is probably something around being trans inclusive. And so I'm just curious if the other organizations would have to serve trans and gender diverse individuals through our policies, or if they are allowed to just not serve them.
Jessica.
Yeah, so Blue, I think I can answer that question. Yeah, every housing service needs to be inclusive of all folks. And that is part of the policies. And I just want to call out that I don't know that I've seen anybody say we don't and we won't. It's more like we don't and we need to, and we need to know how to do that in an appropriate way. So but you're absolutely right. We do need to, housing organizations do need to be trans affirming, absolutely, and gender affirming to all.
Thank you, Jessica. It was a great question, Blue. Does anyone have any additional questions or comments regarding today's agenda? Hearing none, I believe we can go ahead and adjourn. Oh, Dharma.
Sorry. In line with that question too, I'm just wondering how clients or folks receiving services will be able to advocate for things like that in burns that are still developing those policies, or is that like time period between funding and OHA maybe providing template models for like trans affirming housing, for instance, how will folks have, like, what kind of advocacy routes do they have or insurance that they have to be able to access those services immediately?
That is a great question, Dharma, one that I cannot answer right this second. And so I would like to go back and get accurate information for you and bring it back to you if that would work.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, very good question. Thank you so much.
Caroline. Oh, I'm sorry, Henry, and then Caroline.
Thanks, Ron. Yeah, on that note, I appreciate this line of questioning, and I'm also curious if OHA would have some role to play or opportunity to provide guidance for BHRN members who would like to stand up those services immediately and simply need expertise to do so. Is that a role that there are folks within OHA that could provide that guidance?
Thank you for your question, Henry. I'm sorry, I was writing it down. Again, another really good question. Steve, do you have an answer to that?
I don't. I think we got to get back to you. It is a good question. And I think part of our job is to help provide technical assistance to BHRN recipients. And I think we could add this to the list of stuff that we need, things to do to help support providers to provide the full range of services for all who need it, who need them.
Caroline.
Yeah, I honestly think it's time for us to kind of put the past behind us and to start looking locally. Every county has local mental health authorities that have been in existence, many of them since the 70s, definitely since the 80s. And it's time to collaborate. And it's time, I think, health system to probably find a way to bring the two together. For many of them, it's the same entity, and that they need to be providing more local assistance because they're the experts at the local level. They are the ones who are going to have a better understanding in terms of their own social culture within their area. I sure hate for us to send someone, like from Multnomah, and then you're going to go help someone in Baker County because the two cultures are extreme. So I think it's time for us to find a way to start that collaborative type of direction to go. I'm not saying how to do it. I'm just saying that there was a strong connection years ago, and I think we could strive to have that connection again. Just a comment.
Thank you, Caroline. I know there's been a lot of discussion in the public arena regarding the community mental health programs and how the BHRNs are going to interact and kind of how OAC sees the relationship between the community mental health programs and the BHRNs. And so visiting that conversation, I believe, is a good idea. Blue.
I just really feel like we failed people who use drugs and who don't want to stop using drugs in Klamath County. And I'm hoping that maybe for our next round of funding, we divide housing so that we have a housing first section and a box that we check so that this doesn't happen, because I know Measure 110 was not intended to create high barrier services for people.
Thank you for that, Blue. Henry?
Yeah, I appreciate that sentiment. I also think that there's folks who, when we talk about trauma-informed care, there are folks who need services and housing that is free of substances. Maybe it's because they had a partner who was abusing substances and also abusing them, or whatever. So I think I agree with Blue fully that we need to be able to fund the full range of housing services.
It's a continuum of recovery services of which both types of housing are included. That's absolutely right.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Henry, for your comments. Thanks, everybody, for the discussion and the votes today. And as I was saying, we have Multnomah, Lincoln, and Jackson County are the only ones remaining. And hopefully we can get through those next week and move on to the next phase of our work. Thank you all. And the meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you, Ron. Great job.
You're welcome.
Yeah, everyone. Great job, but Ron especially. Yeah.
I will see y'all later.
Well, Amy, you look like you're feeling better. I love that for you. You were pretty sick.
You
Yeah.
feel a lot better. I still have a little tiny residual headache, but the COVID is gone and I feel much better.
Oh, good. So glad. So glad.
And the baby didn't get it, so we're good.
Good. Good.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, guys. See you, some of you tomorrow. See the rest next week.
All right. Sounds good. Bye. All right. Jessica out. Jessica C out, I should say.
Okay, I'm gonna end the meeting.
End it.